worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanzeeba Nouri. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden speaks with families of Americans believed to be held hostage in Gaza. Blinken and Austin bolster U.S. support for Israel as potential ground offensive in Gaza looms. Flu and RSV starting to take up nationwide. NASA launches probe to explore metal-rich asteroid Psyche. North Carolina's auditor-educators clash over COVID-19 school attendance report. "2023 will be warmest year on record," U.S. agency says. Palestinians flee northern Gaza after Israel orders 1 million to evacuate as ground attack looms. "We reject the forced displacement in Gaza," Abbas tells Blinken in Jordan. Hamas says 13 hostages killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza. Hamas tells Gaza residents to stay home as Israel ground offensive looms. Seven killed in suicide attack on Afghan Shiite mosque. A teacher in France is stabbed to death in attack investigated as potential terrorism. Cricket approved by IOC for 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. And Williamson inspires New Zealand to easy win over Bangladesh. You were listening to Headlines Now News in detail. President Joe Biden on Friday spoke with the family members of some Americans believed to be held hostage in the Gaza Strip, according to a White House official. In a call, Biden spoke with family members of the 14 Americans still unaccounted for in the Israel-Hamas war, the White House said, including some believed to be held hostage by Hamas. He was joined on the call by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Roger Kirstens, the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs, Undersecretary of State for Management John Bass, and Brett McGurk, the National Security Council's coordinator for the Middle East, according to the White House. The call lasted more than an hour and was on camera for participants via Zoom. Two people familiar with the conversation told NBC News. Israel has estimated that 150 people were taken to Gaza to be held hostage during Hamas terrorist attack last Saturday. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby confirmed on Thursday that the number of American hostages is believed to be less than a handful. I think they have to know that the President of the United States of America cares deeply about them, deeply. We have to communicate to the world this is critical. This is not even human behavior. It's pure barbarism. And we are going to do everything in our power to get them home, if we can find them, Biden said prior to the call, in a clip of an interview with CBS's 60 Minutes that's airing Sunday. Biden and top US officials have stressed that they will do everything they can to get American hostages released. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin assured Israel that we have your back as he and America's top diplomat met Friday with Israeli and Arab leaders. There was no indication the US was trying to prevent an expected Israeli ground offensive into Gaza that could worsen a humanitarian crisis for the 2.3 million Palestinians trapped in the blockaded territory. The visits to the Middle East by Austin and Secretary of State Antony Blinken came as Israel escalated its war against Hamas militants in response to their shocking and brutal rampage last weekend. Israel demanded Friday that some 1 million civilians evacuate northern Gaza for their own safety in anticipation of the expected invasion. Palestinians did indeed begin a mass exodus toward the southern part of the besieged territory, even as Hamas dismissed the evacuation as a ploy, and the UN warned of potentially disastrous consequences of so many people fleeing. Asked about the likelihood of civilian casualties in Gaza, Austin said Israel has the right to defend itself and added that he respects Israeli forces because he worked with them over the years when he was in the military. Blinken voiced a similar message, saying at a news conference in Doha, Qatar, that although the US continues to discuss with Israel the importance of taking every possible precaution to avoid harming civilians, it was also the case that any country faced with what Israel has suffered would likely do the same. Flu cases are low nationwide, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported Friday, but there are early signs that the virus is beginning to spread. Even these low levels will probably increase in the next couple of weeks, said Alicia Budd, head of the CDC's domestic influenza surveillance team. That is typical for flu seasons, which tend to ramp up by December and peak in February, but said that the agency is not detecting the unusually early rise in flu activity that occurred last year, when kids and teenagers were hit especially hard. Most of the flu cases reported so far this season are influenza type A, specifically the H1N1 strain. A CDC report released Thursday found that children were disproportionately impacted by the flu last year. One of the study's authors, Daniel Ludiano, also a senior research epidemiologist at the CDC, said that the numbers of flu-related pediatric doctors' visits and hospitalizations were higher during the 2022-23 flu season than in previous years. Nearly all of those cases were flu type A, mostly H3N2. Just under 20% were classified as H1N1. NASA on Friday launched a spacecraft from Florida on its way to Psyche, the largest of the several metal-rich asteroids known in our solar system and a body thought to be the remnant core of an ancient protoplanet. The Psyche probe folded inside the cargo bay of a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket blasted off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral on a planned journey 2.2 billion miles through space. The spacecraft, roughly the size of a small van, is due to reach the asteroid in August 2029. The launch, shown live on NASA TV, marks the latest in a series of recent NASA missions seeking clues about the formation of our planet about 4.5 billion years ago by sending robotic spacecraft to explore asteroids, primordial relics from the dawn of the solar system. This asteroid measures roughly 173 miles across at its widest point and resides on the outer fringes of the main asteroid belt between the planets Mars and Jupiter. North Carolina's state auditor and education leaders are clashing over an audit that found several school districts failed to comply with student attendance laws during the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic. The General Assembly directed the state auditor Beth Wood's office in late 2021 to conduct a performance audit that analyzed truancy policies and procedures for 6 public school districts in light of concerns that missing students stopped attending classes during the pandemic. But the authors of the report said the analysis couldn't be performed fully because the Department of Public Instruction failed to provide complete and accurate attendance data for 5 of the districts, including how many students considered chronically absent graduated or were promoted. The difficulty obtaining data contributed to the report released Thursday, more than a year after the legislative deadline, the audit said. Wood's office, however, said all 6 districts failed to perform required actions for students with 3, 6 and 10 excused absences during the 2020-21 school year, the News and Observer of Raleigh reported. That year, many students took online classes when schools didn't provide in-person instruction. Standardized test scores fell during the pandemic but have been recovering. Following another month of record-breaking temperatures throughout the globe in September, the year 2023 is all but certain to be the warmest on record, a U.S. agency said Friday. The unwelcome news comes as world leaders prepare to meet for crunch talks in Dubai in late November, where phasing out fossil fuels, the main driver of human-caused climate change, will be top of the agenda. There is a greater than 99% probability that 2023 will rank as the warmest year on record, said the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in its monthly update. The calculation was based on data gathered through September and on simulations of possible outcomes based on the historical record from 1975 to present. September 2023 was the 4th month in a row of record warm global temperatures, said NOAA chief scientist Sarah Kapnick in a statement. We will be back after a short break. Till then, stay with us. This world continuously revolving around various events. Every minute, every second, something is happening somewhere around the globe, and you want to get connected to that event or to that specific moment. Here we come, Millennium News Hour, to get you connected with top USA and international trending news, which includes local news, political news, world news, business news, health and science related news, entertainment news, sports news, and so on. Millennium News 24 is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV, and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia, available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network, and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with Millennium News Hour to get the world news on your fist. Welcome back to Millennium News Hour. Now it's time for global updates. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to destroy Hamas as the army prepares for an expected ground invasion of the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu delivered the threat in a nationally televised address late Friday. Israel has been pounding Gaza with airstrikes since Hamas militants carried out an unprecedented cross-border attack last Saturday, killing over 1,300 people in a brutal rampage. Early Friday, Israel ordered half of Gaza's population to evacuate their homes. "This is just the beginning," Netanyahu said. "We will end this war stronger than ever. We will destroy Hamas." He added, saying Israel has widespread international support for the operation. Earlier, Palestinians fled in a mass exodus from northern Gaza Friday after Israel's military told some 1 million people to evacuate toward the southern part of the besieged territory, an unprecedented order ahead of an expected ground invasion against the ruling Hamas militant group. The UN warned that telling almost half the Gaza population to flee en masse would be calamitous, and it urged Israel to reverse the order. Families in cars, trucks, and donkey carts packed with blankets and possessions streamed down a main road out of Gaza City, the biggest city, as airstrikes continued to hammer the territory. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has told U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken that he rejects the forced displacement of Palestinians from Gaza, following Israel's order for all of the enclave's civilians to move to the south. Abbas said at Friday's meeting in Jordan's capital Amman that such an event would constitute a second Nakba, referring to the mass displacement of Palestinians in the 1948 war surrounding Israel's creation, the official Palestinian news agency Wafa reported. He also said that humanitarian corridors must be allowed in the blockaded coastal enclave immediately to prevent a humanitarian disaster, the report said. Al Jazeera's diplomatic editor James Bass said Blinken was in Jordan to negotiate, not to ask for the cessation of hostilities. Blinken is expected to also travel to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Egypt to make progress on the release of American captives held by Hamas and negotiate the safe exit of 500 to 600 U.S. citizens or dual nationals currently in Gaza, he said. The diplomatic trip is also aiming to avoid a regional escalation of the war, but not the cessation of hostilities. He is not saying Israel should stop the aggression on Gaza, Bass added. Earlier on Friday, Blinken met Jordan's King Abdullah II, who also called for opening humanitarian corridors to allow for the entry of urgent medical and relief aid to Gaza, and protecting civilians and stopping the escalation and war on Gaza, a statement from the royal court said. Meanwhile, thousands of people gathered in Amman on Friday for a demonstration in support of Palestinians. At least 13 Israeli and foreign hostages held in the northern Gaza Strip have been killed in Israeli airstrikes in the past 24 hours, Hamas's armed wing said Friday. In a surprise assault early Saturday, Hamas militants stormed Israeli communities near the Gaza border and fired barrages of rockets in an attack that claimed more than 1,200 lives. Israel says Hamas has taken more than 150 people hostage, including both civilians and security forces. 13 prisoners, including foreigners, were killed in 5 locations targeted by Israeli fighter jets, the Izzeddin al-Qassam brigades said in a statement. Israel has rained air and artillery strikes on the blockaded Gaza Strip, a densely populated enclave of 2.4 million people, flattening buildings and killing more than 1,500 people. According to the Hamas media office in Gaza, at least 500 children are among the dead. Mosques called on residents of the Gaza Strip not to leave their homes on Friday after Israel's military told all civilians, more than 1 million people, to relocate south ahead of an expected ground invasion that risks high casualties. Any incursion could be pivotal in fighting between the Israeli military and the Palestinian militant group Hamas, which on Saturday launched the bloodiest attack on the country since the 1973 Arab-Israeli War. Israel has already launched the heaviest airstrikes on Gaza ever and has mobilized 300,000 reservists and amazed tanks near the border. The threats of a ground invasion have conjured up images of the Nakba, the Arabic word for catastrophe that refers to the 1948 war of Israel's creation that led to their mass dispossession. Gaza analyst Talal Okal described the Israeli relocation order as an attempt to push the Palestinian people of Gaza into Nakba. At least 7 people were killed and 15 more wounded when a suicide blast tore through a minority Shiite mosque in northern Afghanistan today, the Taliban government said. The number of bomb blasts and suicide attacks has reduced dramatically since the Taliban ended their insurgency after seizing power in August 2021, ousting the US-backed government. However, a number of armed groups, including the regional chapter of the Islamic State organization, remain a threat. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the blast, which rang out as Shiite worshippers gathered for Friday prayers at the Imam Zaman Mosque in Poli Kumri, the capital of Baghlan province. Security and investigative forces went to the area of the incident to investigate how this heartbreaking incident happened, said Provincial Information and Media Chief Mustafa Asadullah Hashimi. Investigations are still ongoing, he said in a statement confirming the casualties. A man of Chechen origin who was under surveillance by the French security services over suspected radicalization stabbed a teacher to death at his former high school and critically wounded 2 other people in northern France on Friday, authorities said. The attack was being investigated as potential terrorism amid soaring global tensions over the war between Israel and Hamas. It also happened almost 3 years after another teacher, Samuel Paty, was beheaded by a radicalized Chechen near a Paris area school. French anti-terror prosecutors were leading the investigation into the stabbings at the Gambetta Carnot School, which enrolls students ages 11 to 18 and is located in the city of Arras, some 115 miles north of Paris. President Emmanuel Macron, who visited the school hours after the attack, said the victim stepped in and probably saved many lives. Macron also said that police thwarted an attempted attack in another French region after the teacher's fatal stabbing. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,323.70. The NYSE Composite is decreased by 5.85 points or 0.04%. Tokyo stock close price is 32,315.99. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 178.67 points or 0.55%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,088.10. The Shanghai index is decreased by 19.80 points or 0.64%. Hong Kong stock close price is 17,813.45. The Hang Seng index is decreased by 424.76 points or 2.33%. Bombay stock close price is 66,282.74. The Sensex index is decreased by 125.65 points or 0.19%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Cricket has been approved by the International Olympic Committee's executive for inclusion in the program for the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. It was announced Friday. IOC President Thomas Bach, speaking after the second day of an executive board meeting in Mumbai, said officials had accepted a proposal by LA organizers for 2020 cricket, the game's shortest established international format, to be included as one of 5 new sports together with baseball or softball, flag football, squash, and lacrosse. But all the new sports will still need to be voted in by the IOC membership in a ballot due to be held on Monday before they are assured of a place at the 2028 Games. Kane Williamson made 78 on his long-awaited return to lead New Zealand to an 8-wicket victory over Bangladesh at the World Cup on Friday, but was forced to retire hurt with a hand injury. The 33-year-old had been sidelined since suffering a serious knee injury at the IPL and missed New Zealand's 2 opening victories at the World Cup. Chasing 246 to win, Williamson took a painful blow to his hand when the ball was thrown in from the field as he attempted a run. Daryl Mitchell topped score for the Kiwis with an unbeaten 89, while Mushfiqur Rahim made 66 for Bangladesh, who have lost 2 of their 3 games. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. Before finishing today's news, let's hear out the headlines again. Biden speaks with families of Americans believed to be held hostage in Gaza. Blinken and Austin bolster U.S. support for Israel as potential ground offensive in Gaza looms. Flu and RSV starting to tick up nationwide. NASA launches probe to explore metal-rich asteroid Psyche. North Carolina's educators clash over COVID-19 school attendance report. "2023 will be warmest year on record," U.S. agency says. Palestinians flee northern Gaza after Israel orders 1 million to evacuate as ground attack looms. "We reject the forced displacement in Gaza," Abbas tells Blinken in Jordan. Hamas says 13 hostages killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza. Hamas tells Gaza residents to stay home as Israel ground offensive looms. Seven killed in suicide attack on Afghan Shiite mosque. A teacher in France is stabbed to death in attack investigated as potential terrorism. Cricket approved by IOC for 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. And Williamson inspires New Zealand to easy win over Bangladesh. That's all for today. Keep watching Millennium News Hour for latest news update. To stay updated, like our Facebook page, subscribe our YouTube channel and visit our website. Our website address is www.millenniumnews24.com. Millennium News 24 is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago Media Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all the latest news worldwide. Thank you.